Episode 3 is here. Okay, for real. Episode 3. Welcome to the Sacred Nectar podcast. This is episode 3, and today I have a guest as part of my offering. And I am really, really thankful for this individual. Her name is Emmi Mutale, and she is a pioneer in her own life and in the world as well. She's doing a marvelous work where she's from in Zambia. And I am really thankful that I got to have a conversation with her, and that she shared her time with me. It was a lovely conversation, just talking about who she is, what she offers, and her life journey. I found her through a gathering of sorts of ladies that are just living their authentic lives as best as they can, and bringing forth their own creativity to the world. And it's one of the things that I feel so fervently at this time, is that everybody's unique and individual spark is needed. And I feel this lady, Emmi, is just offering that, exactly that, her beautiful, unique spark to the world. And it's lovely. I have, I think, been in her sphere for probably over maybe 2 years now or so, at least a year. And just everything she offers is beautiful, is really well thought out, and you can tell the love that she puts in is just so evident. It's just really bursting forth. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy the chat that we have, and that you also get to know her, and we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy, loves. Greetings, Emmi. Thank you for being on this podcast, and I am so honored that you accepted this and that you are my first podcast guest, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you in this space and welcome your presence here. Many of you may not know Emmi, but for those of you who are super new to her, she is a superwoman. She is a mother and a business owner, and she is passionate about healing the earth through our connection to the womb and our connection to our beings. And that's largely to do with intuitive listening and being present with ourselves and the earth, because she also has wisdom for us. So thank you, Emmi, for coming and being part of my podcast, and welcome. Share as you please about yourself and your journey to being.
Thank you so much, Patricia, and it's really is an honor to be on your podcast and to be your first guest. Wow, thank you for that. That's a real blessing. I'm trying to think what would be the best way to really start to talk about myself, and what's really arising for me right now is really to start with that I believe that when we as women reconnect with the sacred ancient wisdom that's inside our bodies, inside our womb spaces, and when we heal the wounds that are stopping us from loving ourselves exactly the way we are, and when we have the courage to step into our sacred feminine power, not only do we heal ourselves, but we heal those who came before us, and we heal those who come after us. And through that collective healing, we are also contributing to the healing of our planet. And that really is my mission, as you already alluded to in the beginning when you were introducing me, to really be a part of this incredible awakening that is taking place on our planet at the moment, and to support the ushering in of the divine feminine in all her many, many aspects and ways, and bring about a world that is truly built on a foundation of love, of unity, and of greater compassion and understanding.
Yes, yes, it's so needed. The ancestral lineage healing part is something that I think is so often overlooked, and we're often floundering kind of in our own mess and not really aware of maybe the past and how it affected us, or even maybe we think we know, but once we dive in, it becomes so much more expanded and gives us such a greater awareness of what we're playing with, so to speak, in this life, what we're working with every day. So yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for your presence in the earth, and for partnering with the divine to bring forth pure love in this space, because that's what we need right now. It's just a planet full of vibrant love. And so yes, thank you. Thank you for your presence. And I wanted to start with just a few questions, and you've maybe mentioned a few of them already, but the first thing that I wanted to really talk about was just your passions in life. And you have obviously mentioned some of them currently, but I'm sure that in the past you maybe didn't have those, or they changed and morphed throughout your life. And so I was just curious if you wanted to talk about the things that drew you as a child that maybe you can see serendipitously falling into what you do now.
Absolutely, yeah. So ever since I was a little girl, I was drawn into the healing arts. I remember having this passion for supporting people, for listening to people and helping them to feel better about themselves at a very early age. And somehow people were drawn to me. People would come to me and share their problems and their challenges and ask for advice, even though I was quite young at that time. And I remember always being very curious about things like archaeology, and Egypt was a huge passion of mine, and indigenous societies and cultures I was always drawn to as well, together with shamanic societies and cultures. And over the years, as I grew older, those passions never went anywhere, but I perhaps started to focus more for a while on things like activism and human rights, and especially women's rights, which really became the foundation for the career that I also built for myself outside of the healing and transformation world, because I initially worked as a development aid worker in the humanitarian field and focused largely on women's and child rights in different parts of the world for a good 20 years, actually. And that passion has stayed with me. I'm still very, very passionate about women's and child rights, and through the work that I have done, have had the privilege to see the impact of patriarchy in its many forms, both in terms of the way women have been treated in different parts of the world and continue to be treated in different parts of the world as inferior in many, many ways. But also in my healing and transformation work, which I now do pretty much full time for the past 4 or 5 years or so. And in my healing work, of course, as well, I see the impact of patriarchy in so many ways. I often work with women who have gone through abuse of sorts, whether it's sexual abuse or emotional abuse or negligence or any kind of abuse. And often that has started very early on in their lives. So supporting women who have gone through experiences like that is very, very important for me. So I think in many ways, the passions I had as a child have kind of stayed with me and perhaps have just deepened along the way, and acquired new levels of understanding and new levels of making them even more practical on my path as well.
Yeah, it's like our soul's purpose comes to us and we grow into it. Yeah, it's that's very remarkable and beautiful. And yeah, I mean, you have in Lusaka there, I think you have a house of Gaia, right? For women and children, a shelter kind of space. So that you are still very active in those things that have drawn to you, and that's beautiful. And that's kind of why I asked, because I feel like um, the things that we're meant to do are always speaking to us in our life. And especially for young listeners, I mean, I think throughout our 20s often, especially females, but certainly every gender has this struggle of like, well, what am I supposed to do with my life? And where am I supposed to go? And, well, what are the things that speak to you? Listen to that and follow that, and don't listen to the noise around you of go do this or go do that. But sometimes, if you do those things, trust they're part of your journey. Whatever you do is part of your journey. And, yeah, mostly it's inside of us. It's inside of us when we're here as children and we just follow through. And so that's beautiful that you have done that and that you're working now with women and children and your healing work. And it is powerful. Even your own podcast, which is, feminine revered, right? And
Sacred feminine power.
Sacred feminine power. Yes. Thank you. I knew it had sacred in it and I blinked for a minute. And, yeah, this just the guests that you have on your show too. And the relationship that you have in your speaking and whatnot with others, your gifts just come through. Like even when you're not, I think, in that healing space, it's just very evident of what you bring, which is love and healing. So,
thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Absolutely. I also wanted to talk about current sacred nectar. So this is kind of like if you're new to my space, understanding what sacred nectar could be, like, well, what is that? What does that mean? And I think the easiest way for me to explain it to others, everything is still being kind of birthed into a solid state or something like that. But it is more or less the things that bring you joy and the things that take you from a fear space into a love space, from an anxiety space to a peace space. So what are the things in your life currently that do that for you?
It really is the simple things that do it for me at the moment. So connecting with nature, putting my bare feet onto the grass or onto the soil and just breathing really deeply in alignment with Mother Earth. That never fails to soothe me and calm me down. Being by the sea, which I now have access to being in Finland, because when I'm based in Zambia, which is a landlocked country, I don't really have access to that. So now that I'm in Finland, it's just beautiful to connect with the sea, which has played a hugely important part for me ever since I was a small child again. And another thing that I do for myself, and just to mention that I have a tendency to kind of dip into fear. I noticed that that's something that I have dealt with ever since I was a child. Anxiety, even going down to depression at times. And for me, some of the most powerful ways that I turn that fear into something empowering are the methods that I use with my clients as well. So for example, tapping or EFT. Yeah. Very, very powerful methods, very simple, but very easy and very quick often to use as well to bring us from a vibration of fear into a sense of love and deep rootedness and connection to ourselves and letting go of that sense of fear or doubt. So I use that a lot on myself and almost always with my clients as well. And breath work is hugely important for me as well. I have cleared a lot of anxiety from my own life through different kinds of breathing methods, and use it again on a daily basis together with meditation to really lift my vibration and to shift out of any states that are of lower vibration. And I really need to do that as a practice, because if I don't, I do have that tendency to slip into that fear or that state of like, oh, poor me, woo me, so it really is a daily practice. And what I'm really working on at the moment as well is turning it into a beautiful ritual. So it really gains a lot of symbolic meaning in my life as well. So how can I treat my body? How can I talk to my body? How can I bless my body today so that my body feels good? So that I nourish her with healthy foods, organic foods as much as possible, and beautiful, organic, fresh vegetables, whatever is the best for my body in terms of lifting her vibration. And when my body feels good, then it's much easier to wake up feeling happy and feeling good overall as well. So that's another really important part at the moment, really looking after my body temple and bringing as much compassion towards myself as well when I need to. So for example, if I have eaten something that I know my body won't enjoy or I won't feel that great the following day, being as compassionate with myself as possible and not beating myself up about it, which I used to do a lot in the past. So it's about really cultivating this sense of compassion for myself. And the beautiful thing is that the more I cultivate that compassion for myself, the more it starts to expand to others. So I'm really noticing this really beautiful, like these moments, these sudden moments of sitting on a train, for example, looking at somebody else whom I don't know, a total stranger, and having this heart-opening moment towards that stranger and having this compassion just float out of me towards that person as well. And we don't even interact. I'm just kind of looking at them on the train. So it's been a really beautiful process and journey to witness.
Yeah. I think I often view the relationship with our temple body as like a marriage. Like, the more you invest and the more you put in, you generally get more out. And it takes time and attention and love and nurture. And it's an everyday choice that I'm going to love myself. And it is so important right now too, with the sifting and the changing of our earth and all that she's going through. It's so important for us to honor her by honoring our beings, which are made from her. And my last podcast just talked about how important in my life breathwork has been and how game-changing it is, just to process life, like everyday circumstances, is like connecting with the breath just really helps to center, to ground, to essentially realize who we are. Like, we're not all the noise, the chatter, the anxiety, the whatever that's coming up. We're not that. We are just pure love, and it's in there. And if we take few or more deep breaths, can usually connect back. And it's important to be centered and grounded, and process those energies that come up, not discard them, but to just process them and to be with them. And breath work is like one of the safest spaces to hold your energies and process through them. I am a huge fan of breath work. And also, I just talked about the intention, which is the unspoken ingredient that we put into our food when we eat, and you were talking about that. And yeah, just being so gracious with ourselves is really important in all of with everything going on in the world, and so many upheavals in the world. It's very, very important just to be conscious and gracious and loving with how we handle ourselves and our world. There's so much we can't control, like you were saying, like through our food or whatever. I mean, sometimes it's a choice to ingest it, of course, but even organic stuff, there's stuff on the organics that we can't control, and just being so gracious and just receiving the divine energy that was poured in through the earth and through the sun and the rain to grow these things, and just receiving that with like intense love into our being and gratitude for the nurture that it's providing is really valuable. Yeah, and the ritualistic part resonates so much with me. Trying to make that ritual, it's hard. If I'm not mistaken, you are a mother, is that correct?
I am, yes.
Yes, and so that element of making your self-care ritualistic is a little bit more of a challenge than it might be for the single person or like the non-mothering individual. Yeah, it's a challenge to make it a ritual space, but it does change the dynamic. There is something about it that makes it that much more sacred and that much more nourishing as well, because we're I feel like in a different vibration when we receive it. But yeah, I so resonate with the things that are nourishing to you, and nature is like, it's what we're made of. Like, why wouldn't we be nourished by her? And yep, I resonate, Emmi. So that kind of brings me to my next question of, probably the biggest space in your life where you realized that you had to care for yourself, or that you had to reach out for and find your own sacred nectar, is a dark space. And it could have been one dark space, could have been many, it could have been a series. I know you mentioned depression. I've had depression in the past. I don't think it's uncommon in our world, but it's often mishandled. But what comes up for you as like a dark space or a dark moment when that you've experienced in your life, and how sacred nectar in your life brought you through that, or helped you in that space? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, the one that comes to mind right now, the strongest, because I have had quite a few initiations on my path, but the one I think I'd like to speak to is from the time that I was very busy building my career in the humanitarian field, and I was very focused on my job. I was working a full-time job in an organization that I really, really liked at the time, and was taking on progressively more responsible assignments, wanting to climb the career ladder, always working as long hours as I could in order to achieve my goals and please my supervisors, and was always seeking for external validation. Now, the twist to the plot is that already then I was a mother, and I had 2 kids who were both under 2 years old. So you can do the maths around that. So I was trying to be the perfect mama at home, trying to be the perfect employee at work. And I'm not going to even bring my husband into this equation. But what started to happen to me is I was getting more and more tired, more and more fatigued. And I kept on ignoring the messages from my body. And I kept on ignoring the tiredness. I kept on ignoring even the pain that was starting to come through my body at that time. And I was starting to snap at my kids over the smallest of things. I would get upset with my husband over anything. And it got to the point where, and I was literally sleeping maybe 3 or 4 hours a night because my daughter was still breastfeeding at the time. And so I had very little me time, very little sleep, and a lot of work, both at my job and at home with my small kids. And it got to a point where one day I literally just crashed. I found myself sitting in a heap on the bathroom floor. I had just yelled at my babies, cursed at my husband, and just told them to go away. And I was in the lowest point that I had ever been in my life. And if we had stopped sleeping pills at the house, there is a very good possibility that I wouldn't be here anymore. Because that sense of hopelessness that I was in that moment was so, so very intense. Luckily, we didn't. And as I was sitting there on the bathroom floor, somehow, from somewhere, I started to feel this stirring inside my chest, inside my heart space. And it felt almost like a little tiny seed was starting to grow. And I had absolutely no idea how it was going to happen, but I knew in that moment that I was going to be okay. And it still took a good amount of time, but I started to get back onto my spiritual path at that point because I had been so focused on my career that I had left behind a lot of the spiritual work that I'd done before that point. And that was really the turning point for me, that I started to, again, seek out more teachers and mentors on the healing path, started to learn new healing modalities, started to apply them to myself, and then slowly over time started to feel better as well about myself, within myself, and within the family that we had created. So that was really, I think, a powerful turning point for me.
That's such a beautiful initiation. I mean, we don't think of our initiations as beautiful and our dark spaces as lovely, but it's really out of the dark spaces that things grow. And our culture is often afraid of the dark, and sometimes it's glorified for other reasons. But the reality is it's in the dark, in the soil, in the hard spaces that the beautiful things come forth. And wow, what a journey you had, and what a challenge to have to go through at such a small, a time of intense, like in general, intense. It requires so much intensity from you, just being a mother through those younger years, and then also plugging into your work outside the home in such a fervent manner. You are indeed a superwoman, just as I said, navigating all of that and coming forth into this beautiful, glorious new Emmi of being centered and knowing your boundaries and learning, and so thankful for the people who were with you in that space and watched you grow. And that's beautiful. And I'm nourished by your journey. So thank you for sharing that. I know it can also be sometimes hard to hash that back up and feel some things. So thank you for going there. Powerful.
Thank you.
And yeah, so it seems like the largest piece of sacred nectar in that moment or throughout that then was, or one of the biggest things that stuck out to me maybe was your spiritual path. You said that you needed to incorporate more of back into your life. What did that look like for you in that space? Like, what was the first thing you kind of started to do again or went towards?
Just number one, finding a bit more time for myself to connect deep within. It's always been very, very important for me to have those quiet moments when I can just, in an unhurried, uninterrupted space, really, really connect deep within. And I had been missing those moments for quite a few years at that point. So it's really just finding those moments and reconnecting with myself. And I also started to do yoga at that point as often as I could. So that was really beautiful for the body. I think I started to get back into meditation little by little as well when I had quiet moments. Yes. And then after a little while, I then again started to study healing modalities. So I think it was Reiki that came along first. From that, I also met a beautiful Reiki practitioner at that time, and started receiving Reiki first, and then started studying with her around that time too. So that was a beautiful entryway back into the healing work that I'd already studied before that. I'd studied shiatsu, Zen shiatsu before that, and meditation as well. So this was a beautiful way of expanding my toolkit, or however you'd like to call it, in terms of the healing modalities that I'd studied. And it just took me on a really, really beautiful journey of, again, ever deepening spiral journey into myself and once my cup was full in terms of self-nourishment, I could then start to offer healing sessions to others as well. And it's literally just grown from there gradually. And I've just added a few more tools that have helped me on along the journey to the offerings that I now give to others as well.
Yes, yes, it's just that. It's an overflow, and it's a spiral overflow too, right? So it's just an ever motion and ever flowing out to others. It's beautiful when we fill up our cup, when we nourish our beings, when we are attentive to the things that speak to us, our personal sacred nectars. It's just unbelievable how it radiates out and overflows into the world around us. And that brings me exactly to the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which was what you do now. And you've alluded to a lot of it, but your work is so beautiful, and I just wanted you to talk about it in your own words and share your passions, share what your beautiful container that you've created for yourself and others. Share about that.
Thank you. Yeah. So essentially what I do is I hold sacred and safe space for healing and transformation. And I take women, and also sometimes men, but still predominantly women, on sacred journeys of healing and transformation. And we go deep. So this is the kind of healing work that takes you deep into the shadow world as well, to look into your own shadows, with the understanding that shadows always contain gifts and light as well. And with the understanding that the more we learn to integrate our shadow selves into our everyday beings, into our everyday lives, the easier life will become. And a big part of my work is centered around the womb space. So really supporting women to remember and reclaim the wisdom and power of our wombs. And so many of us are completely disconnected from our womb power. I was too for most of my life. And even though I've been pregnant 3 times and had given birth to 2 babies, I was not connected to my womb. I was connected to my babies in the womb, but I wasn't connected to my own organ. And so what I do really is support women to reconnect to their womb spaces, whether they still have a physical womb or not, because we can connect to the energy and the vibration of the womb space as well, even if the physical organ is no longer there. And really accessing that ancient feminine wisdom that we all carry deep within ourselves. And when we start to reconnect to that wisdom, we start to realize how powerful we truly are, how divine we all truly are, and how we all have this beautiful purpose on this planet of ours. And a big part of my work is indeed supporting women to heal wounds. So heal trauma that might be coming from this lifetime, often early on in our childhoods. It could even be from the time we were in our mother's wombs, or even the time of conception. It could be something that we've taken on from our lineages, so the ancestral healing that you talked about. Or it could be past life experiences that we have just carried on to karmic patterns. Or it could be something that we hold inside ourselves from the collective experiences of women all around the world for the past centuries and thousands of years even. So it's really about healing these wounds, clearing them at a really deep level, at a cellular level, so that we can truly step onto our path, step into our sacred feminine power, and really share our soul gifts with the world, speak our truth authentically, and work with our womb spaces to create the kind of lives that we want, and be able to share our gifts in a way that feels authentic and alive to us.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and it's very powerful and needed. And I'm really thankful for that you bring forth. It's the sacred nectar you're offering to the world, and it's lovely, and all of it is so integrated. And that's what you were saying, like when we're truly connected and we integrate even the dark parts of our being into ourselves, and we don't We don't shun, but we just embrace with love every part of ourselves. It makes a huge difference in how we navigate our lives and navigate our relationships and what our world looks like then. And not just for us, but around us. And the people that we affect, even if we don't like have a deep relationship with them, it just changes everything. And it's a ripple effect out into the world. And it's beautiful. So I'm so thankful for what you do and for your journey and for your presence in the earth and for you speaking your truth, for your patience with yourself to come into this space where you could then be so full and abundant and overflowing to share that. So yeah, thank you for being here. And I just want to ask you, is there anything that you wanted to ask me or anything that's coming up for you that you wanted to talk about in this moment here?
I think one thing that really is coming through quite strongly right now is that it's never too late to do the healing work. It doesn't matter where we are in terms of our age. It doesn't matter where we are in terms of our life situation. Healing is always possible. And we don't need to do it alone. You don't need to do this alone. There are always people around you who will. There will always be a way to connect with people who have just the right words or just the right advice or just the right skill sets to support you to get through whatever it is that you might be going through. So it's never too late, and don't be afraid to ask and reach out for support.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I found in my right in your space, and you just simply have to reach out and it will be there. So yeah, I hope every listener also finds that in their life and understands that the people and the support that you need are there, and don't hesitate to reach out. And like Emmi said, it's never too late. Emmi, thank you for being here. What do you have going on in your space right now? I know you just did, or like you have an upcoming Egypt retreat, I think. And I don't know, did that pass? Am I too late for that?
No, it's coming up. It's coming up in September.
Very nice. Yes. And what an exciting offering. I was like so excited when you were offering that. I was like, look at Emmi. She's doing it. And yes, that was really, really encouraging for me. What do you have else going on? Tell me about what you have going on in your space, what you're offering, large scale or whatever right now. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So the Egypt retreat is my main focus at the moment. So we still have a few spaces left. So if anybody is intrigued about coming together with us, sailing down the Nile and visiting sacred sites and pyramids and temples and doing healing work and sacred ceremony with us, then that is going to be happening from the 18th of September to the 26th of September. And you are welcome to just reach out to me and get the details about that trip from me. And then I also run regular-ish, monthly-ish healing circles, which are on a donation basis. So those are a really accessible, affordable way of getting to know my work and really receiving some powerful healing in a group of women who are always committed and dedicated to their healing. So it's a very powerful, vibrationally potent healing circle as well. So those I inform people about through my mailing list and then also through my Facebook and Instagram pages or sites or whatever you call those things, but through Instagram and Facebook. And then I also offer one-on-one support for women who are ready to go deeper, who are ready to go on that journey of healing and transformation and really want to clear that trauma and those wounds from their bodies, from their cells, in order to really rise up and step into their power. And if that is intriguing to you, then you are welcome to book what I call a sacred energy activation with me. It's a complimentary activation. And I do a very beautiful, powerful activation in the beginning of that session where we call in lots of beautiful guides and energies, and often a transmission comes through specifically for the person I'm meeting with as well. And then you get a chance to chat with me about what it is that you are wanting to birth and be and become in this lifetime, what your vision is really, and tell me about the kind of challenges and blocks that you might be facing. And then if it all feels aligned on both sides, because I love to work with people who feel fully aligned with me and I feel fully aligned with, I think it's super important, then I would provide more information about how I do that healing work and how they could potentially benefit from that as well.
Yes, that's so beautiful. And I know personally from your emailing list, the wisdom that you just keep into your emails, and so many different things you share. And if you do join one of her sacred healing circles, which I would recommend, she always sends out a recording from it as well. And so if you don't make it on time, if you're a mother or whatever else, you can still partake of this luxurious nectar-filled space that Emmi offers for us to heal and revel in. Thank you, Emmi, for your work. Thank you for your offerings to the world. And thank you for being here to share that with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I've really enjoyed this chat, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for the work that you do as well.
Thank you, Emmi. Okay.
And that was the conversation. I hope you really enjoyed it. I, like I said, really am blessed by Emmi and her work. And she is such a goddess in her own right. So if you feel called, reach out to her. I will put her information in the show notes so that you can access her. And even if you don't dive into her offerings or take her Egypt retreat this year, she has as I mentioned in conversation with her, such fabulous emails that she just brings forth. So even if you got on her email list, that would be plenty of nourishment to receive her own goddess energy. Anyway, thank you for being part of this podcast. Thank you for investing your time to listen to each episode. And I love feedback, so share away if there's somebody that you want to hear on my podcast that you think would be an addition. Please reach out to me, my email, through my website, however, and let me know. Again, episode 3 of the Sacred Nectar podcast. Thank you for listening, and I will be back again with another guest or just a conversation with myself and you. Be well. See you soon, loves. Bye. Being present. gifts come forth, being present here and now. Sharing divine sparks of love, sharing with the world around you, offering your presence in your perfect way. Let your divinity burst forth. Let your love radiate out, and know that's perfect for you. Being present for all of you. Giving presence to every part of you, for you are divine, so divine.